This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. How you doing, man? You doing good?
I'm doing good. It's funny because this is the show I thought I'd be having with you after Sunday's game when you're telling me how bad the Heat are, how they don't deserve to be here, how they should have tanked, how they should have gone the lottery. Because,
No,
man,
I won't say they should have tanked because that's not the way Riley has ever been. So I'm not going to ask for something that's unrealistic
or not good enough. Yeah, or not good enough.
This is mediocre by Heat standards. This is phenomenal for the Orlando Magic. Making the playoffs would be just great for the Charlotte Hornets and all of that. We are in a spoiled state. So we have a different thinking, overall. And of course, the Heat deserve to be in the playoffs. They're just not a good team that I don't think they'll end up making a run in these playoffs, unfortunately, because they're a 90s team in the 2020s.
And it's about matchups. They got the wrong opponent. And if they got to 6, and I know what you've seen from the Sixers against the Nets, but I think there would have been a much better fight from the Heat in that series because we've already seen some shaky moments from the Sixers. Harden's ejection, Joel Embiid with a kick. They can be ruffled a little bit. The Heat got a bad matchup. And why do you get a bad matchup, Big O? Because you didn't do enough during the regular season to merit a better matchup. So this is the Heat's medicine for only 44 wins, for not being good enough, for kicking the can down the road on some very winnable games. And this is the upshot. It's really weird, Big O. The series is tied 1-1, and it feels like they're losing the series 1-1 based on what we're coming off of.
Because deep down inside, they got a break with the Giannis injury in game 1. That's kind of the way it looks. It's,
they got a break with the Giannis injury in game 2.
Unless they somehow can recapture the magic that they had last year in their run, which that's not the Heat team we're seeing now. We have not seen that team. Have there been flashes like in game 1 that they shot lights out? Sure. Those are aberrations. That's not the norm for them. The norm is what we've seen in game 2 and throughout the year, that there's just so much inconsistencies that as a coach, I don't even know how you dial up one thing or another when you don't know what you're going to count on. Like tonight, do you go back to Duncan? Do you go to Oladipo? Neither one is efficient.
I think tomorrow the Heat's greater concern is not whether it's Oladipo or Robinson. It's you need the best of Bam, the best of Butler. But man, with missing Tyler Hero, you don't have another shot creator. So again, these things happen. Injuries happen in the playoffs. Good teams find a way. The Clippers were very competitive without Kawhi last night. They fought to the finish against the Suns. The Heat don't have a Norman Powell. They don't have that kind of depth that they can do something like that. Yeah.
What did he do, 40 points yesterday?
He put a 40-burger up there when Kawhi was out. Clippers still aren't in good shape, but it just shows depth of talent. That's the problem. When you and I are sitting here, Big O, and debating whether it's going to be Duncan Robinson or Victor Oladipo or Caleb Martin, think about the debate we're having. We're debating whether you want an all-star 10 years past his prime or 2 undrafted players. And like I pointed out at the start of that game Wednesday, the Miami Heat started 3 undrafted players. The Bucks started 4 former first-round picks and 1 early second-round pick and an all-star in Chris Middleton. It's all about pedigree. It's all about just the best players. You take Jimmy Butler out of the equation, and the Bucks are right up there with maybe 5 of the next 6 best players in the series. So that's what you wind up with.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. It's just like listen. I've been talking about this for months now. The Heat have lowered their standards for their players overall. Like I've said before, you look at Shaq and Zoe and Timmy and LeBron and Wade and all, and the guys that were surrounding him. The Posies and the Ray Allens and the Battiers and the PJ Tuckers and, the kind of quality that you used to have around your stars were guys that were really good players, man, in their own rights. Hell, even Ray Allen is a Hall of Famer and a former All-Star, but he became a great role player around the big 3. And to me, that's where the level of player has gone down a notch or 2 for the Miami Heat. And this is why you can't afford to have a Jimmy Butler or a Tyler Hero that can only play 65, 70% of the season. If you have that, you're done because, like you just mentioned, you don't have a Norman Powell. You don't have some other guys that are going to pick it up on those nights and pick up some wins when those guys are out. This is the reason why they ended up being such a low seed, because in order for them to be a higher seed, Butler and Tyler have to play 75 plus games in a season because they just don't have the other guys that can pick up the slack. And that team
and the reason you don't is this reason. The Heat, all the players you mentioned, Battier, Ray Allen, Birdman, players like that, they came to the Heat because it was a place to be, because they would take a little less salary-wise because they had a chance to win. Big O.
PJ Brown, Marley. I mean, Jesus.
If you're an outside free agent looking at the Miami Heat this July and saying, I want to go somewhere where I can win, let's be honest. Are you looking at the Miami Heat as that team? You're looking at a team that's probably 6th or 5th best in their conference at best. You're going to go to the Celtics. You're going to go to the Bucks. The rich get richer in the NBA until you make your own breakthrough. How do you make a breakthrough? You overachieve. You get a high draft choice, which the Heat are not getting. You find a free agent who wants to play with you at the cost of millions of dollars, sort of like Jimmy Butler did when he left Philadelphia the first time. It's hard to get back up. It's hard to, I fall in, I can't get back up in the NBA. They make it hard on purpose. Right now, the Heat might be a destination for no taxes. Talk about your latest sponsor about that, about the tax breaks right there. You can talk about the weather. But when it comes to, I want to go play for a contender in free agency, at the trade deadline, at the buyout deadline, this is not where it once was. This is not where a Shane Battier or Ray Allen or Birdman come because they want the bite at that apple. Even Goran Dragic, he was honest with me when we spoke on the bench before game one. He said, look, I want a chance for a ring. So, of course, you go to Milwaukee instead of Miami. He might not play at all, but he has a far better chance.
Now, here's my other concern. And some people may be looking at it the other way. I will never look at it that way. And this is Pat Riley. And, I get some people, like, I'm frustrated with Pat in the front office and the ownership group, but I don't want any changes. I want those guys to stay there, and I want them to get through it and figure this thing out. But here's what I'm afraid of now, and this is what I'm about to ask you. This is a setback for the Heat. They still have salaries that they've got to get out of in order to get to that championship level. They're nowhere close to being a championship level. Pat Riley's got to know that deep down inside now. So either you need to reset this entire roster, or I don't know how you're going to, put lipstick on a pig to try to then all of a sudden become a championship roster. Or if you need to reset and you're a few years away from trying to rebuild this thing back to where you need to go, is Riley going to stick around for this? Because I'm not the guy that wants to see Riley go at all. I want to see him fight through this and gut this thing out and redo the team again. But I know he's getting up there. And I don't know how much more time does he want to do it.
We're all getting up there. The one thing I'll say is Pat Riley is not going to sell out the future because of the people he has around him. Because Andy Ellisberg is there, and Adam Simon is there, and Nick Arison is there. So they'll be prudent. And I did speak to someone around the Heat who said to me, we can't go ahead and keep offering future first-round picks to get out of current predicaments. You can't attach a first-round pick to Kyle Lowry, a first-round pick to Duncan Robinson. You can't keep playing with the future that way. And I think they understand that. So, short term, you just put lipstick on. You put Band-Aids on. You try to get to that 4, 5, 6 spot where at least you have a chance to win a playoff series. Maybe a player gets injured later in the playoffs. We saw with Joel Embiid last year against the Heat in the second round. He missed the first 2 games. The Heat jumped on the Sixers. That's probably what it's going to be. If you keep chasing the future.
He needs another star, Ira. He needs another star next to him that can carry the load.
And I have your star. I have your star. I have your star sitting next to me, but I don't have 2 cameras. Your star is, and I wrote this in my Sunday column, and I think it's very possible. You might not think it's good enough. I think it's Bradley Beal. The Wizards fired their general manager and Tommy Shepard, who gave Bradley Beal his $250 million extension. Bradley Beal is 29 going on 30. They're going to have a new GM who's going to want to reset there. Tyler Hero is seductive enough. He's an attractive player as a marketing player. He's young enough that he can attract interest. You can get something with him. As much as Ira Winderman just said, I wouldn't give up the future to unload a contract, I would not be remiss, even this year's pick, to give up Tyler Hero and 1 first-round draft choice to get Bradley Beal. And if I open next season with Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo, I'm in a lot better position than I ended this season. Things are happening, Jerry. things are happening. And I think there's a chance because of that. You have to read the tea leaves. Toronto just got rid of Nick Nurse this morning, dismissed him as coach. All of a sudden, what happens to Fred VanVleet and some of their other pieces? The one thing you will agree with me on this, Big O, is this. Pat Riley is great at pouncing on the moment. Whether it's way back, Alonzo Mourning wanting a deal in Charlotte, Tim Hardaway not getting along with Rick Adelman, Anthony Mason having his issues right through the last 2 decades. So right now, it's 6:01 Biscayne while the Heat are practicing in his executive suite. Pat Riley's going, okay, Andy, things are happening around the league. Let's jump them guys. And don't discount Damian Lillard either. And the fact that he showed up in the Nets game last night, when guys want to be seen and they want to stay in our consciousness to let people know they're still out there, there's a possibility. Now, what's going to happen all summer on our accurate Pembroke Pines reports on our redrecover.com Inside the Paint, you and I will debate this. How much do you wait for the big move versus trying to get things in better order so you're not turning to all these undrafted players? And Heat fan out there, and we'll discuss this on the chat board when we get a chance, that's the risk you take. When you go big, you take a risk on losing out on something smaller but effective. Look what the Nets did. The Nets went out and said, we're going to lose Kevin Durant, but let's get some nice pieces. So we'll get rid of Kyrie, we'll get rid of Durant, we'll get nice pieces. Cameron Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith. Nice pieces only get you so far, Big O. They got the Nets to hold on to number 6. As of Saturday, tomorrow, they could be swept out by the 76ers. So again, this is going to be the same debate you and I will have when the season ends, when you and I are out in Vegas in Summer League is, do you shoot for the stars and wind up firing blanks? It's a tough decision, but I know how Pat Riley's done it before, and I expect him to do it the same way again.
Let's hope so. Your thoughts on what happened with Philadelphia yesterday?
I thought the James Harden nut shot was innocuous, was not intentional, and should not have been ejectional. Look, I understand there's a certain sensitive bits we all run around with, but they're just there. You know, like wear a cup for God's sakes if you're that concerned about it. So I think it was a bad call there. The fact that Joel Embiid was not ejected for an upward swinging kick where on the ground where there was not a basketball play and there was an intent to injure leads you to believe what the hell's going on. And then we saw what happened with Claxton. There has to be a better sort of unified rule there. I had no issue, and I mentioned this to Kurt Heelan on redrecover.com Inside the Paint with the Draymond Green ejection. I thought that maybe even should have been multiple games because that was an intent to injure a star player, which does make a difference. But after what happened in Brooklyn and Philadelphia last night, I think the league needs to get all the refs together and say this, and this is an ejection, this, and isn't. It can't be made in the heat of the moment when it comes to ejections. With suspensions, you sit back. Joe Dumars looks at the film. He looks whether a player's a recidivist. I get all that. I thought the officiating and the rulings last night were way off in that Nets game. But hell, it was fun also.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember anymore. Were there any penalties called when Pippen did it to Ewing?
Back then, it was a different time. Back then,
I know. It was a completely different time. Back then,
you just had Oakley and Larry Johnson and Mason take matters, I don't want to say into their own hands in that case.
No, they
settled. You know what? And that's the difference. And you know what? It's even like in the hockey you're watching now. Used to be every hockey team, remember Big O, had an enforcer. Peter Worrell was here. Paul Laus was here. Sports is changing. There's no enforcers in hockey. There's no enforcers.
But it was kind of the same play last night. The Philly, the same play as Pippen walking over Ewing after the dunk. Remember? So it was kind of the same thing.
And you have some.
Ewing didn't kick him. It was kind of a getting up, and then there was like a pushing thing.
A get out of my face kind of deal.
Yeah.
But honestly, the only enforcer who might be left in the NBA, and he's not on the court to enforce anymore, might even be like a Udonis Haslem. You simply don't have that anymore. The league's decided we're going to adjudicate. You just play the game.
Yeah, Rick Mahorns don't exist anymore in the NBA. That was
McFilthy and McNasty when Rick Mahorn played next to Jeff Ruland. That's a bygone era.
Ooh, Jeff Ruland, dude. Yeah, that's a classic one right there. All right, what do you got going on in the Sun Sentinel so folks can check you out?
I posted an important story this morning on Myers Leonard coming back to Miami for the first time since he made his anti-Semitic slur, was out of the league for 2 years. And I think this is important for this reason. Big O, we're always quick to report the arrest or the incident or something with a player, but we never come back and say, okay, Was he found not guilty? Was he adjudicated? In this case, did he atone? And what Meyers Leonard has done has gone above and beyond privately for what he's done. He went to the seniors' houses here. He went to the homes of Holocaust survivors. He met with local rabbis down here. One of the rabbis is going to visit with his son for Monday's game, couldn't go because of the Sabbath on Saturday. So I want people to read that just to please get the other side. Most people remember the incident, say he's a jerk for what he did. But you know what? The good guys go out and make things right. And we need the kind of voice that Meyers Leonard is to discuss anti-Semitism, to say what I did was a mistake and innocuous. The problem is some people mean it, they say it, and there is no remorse, and that's a difference. So that's at sunsentinel.com. It'll be on your doorstep tomorrow. And then I just reported the crazy starting time for next Wednesday's game, 9:30 p.m. Eastern for Game 5 in Milwaukee. And what it tells you is this. The NBA expects the Milwaukee Bucks to be going back home with a 3-1 lead in a game that no one wants to watch. No offense to my friends at NBA TV, but it'll be kicked over nationally on that channel, which some get, some don't, especially if you're in a hotel. Right now, the league has very little respect for this series, and maybe after Game 2, rightfully so.
Well, it's not just the league; it's also TV saying that too. It's
Right.
like, okay, let's, it's TV saying to the league, yeah, no, we got to put this here because this product's not as sexy, but this one's sexier, so let's
Right.
put this one at 7:30.
Look, there's 4 games that night. They're saying Lakers, Memphis because of LeBron, sexier. Warriors, Sacramento, sexier because it's a great series. Knicks, Cavaliers, sexier because it's closer and involves New York. So the Heat, they're probably fortunate they're not on PBS at midnight.
Oh, God. Or the Bravo channel or something like that. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. And, of course, subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel and support Ira and all the other exceptional writers there locally for the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, have a great weekend, my friend. We will catch up on Monday.
Catch you Monday in our Acura Pembroke Pines report to talk about the Heat's 2-1 series lead. Thank you, Big O.
Let's go. That would be nice. That's for damn sure. That's our Acura Pembroke Pines Miami Heat and NBA report at 15601 Pines Boulevard, baby. Check it out. They've got a fleet of certified pre-owned vehicles, and they've got a large selection of brand new models, all colors, all styles. That way you can go in there and pick the color you want, the style you want, the model you want, and the color you want, and get the price, baby, the best price in town at Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.